Hello and welcome to Zanny Zion Up, episode 5, Whole Story. This was meant to be the initial and original introduction to the series, however I lost it. Anyway, be sure to tell me if I did miss anything as the title would suggest. Oh, and one more thing to mention. Different topics will be covered, so we'll introduce them as subheadings. The warpath and give peace a chance. Destruction or salvation, what a lovely touch. This gives people the two paths. A collective effort and another with not so much. One is about picking your battles and caring to help those around you to bring out their full potential. The other is about asserting dominance against everything in your way without any discretion or direction for that matter, but protecting the back of your self-acknowledging subordinates. One of two ways for sure. Psychotic or physiopathic personality traits and tendencies. Selfish, entitled, or other nasty names usually choose the warpath. People are easily deluded to consider the loss of many as a monumental victory. To avoid conflict is always the best choice. These motives are often driven by constant propaganda, lying, and deception being the biggest weapon that they use. Of course, how else do you think they choose a leader? Because they were described to be better than the rest in terms of balls, not courage. On the other hand, to give peace a chance is horrible to be exact. Constantly going with the benefit of the doubt regardless, always a warning shot with no intent on eliminating any target. Trust from others is gained through absolute struggle, and even then it cannot be relied upon. With one small mistake, or should I say a thing not going the right way, they who had followed you turned their backs, making those who remained experience despair and truly what words cannot describe. The warpath is by any means possible, unlike a peaceful resolution, which is mostly by a set of repeated corrected criteria. Aside from the humble, most will ignore. You've heard of the phrase, cut the head of the snake. It works for the way which bites more than it can chew. Self-entitled individuals who force their abrogated version of truth. The other movement is about collective empowerment and prosperity, so the objective is fixed to an end goal, or should be if they are on the same page of achieving the best possible outcome. Heroes or villains. To be in the mind of both at the same time is not possible. This contrast is to make it clear as crystal. Orientated guidance could have both sides reach top status. Subjectively speaking, they could not be wider apart. Two extremes with a single catch. The villain will do all that is at their or somebody else's disposal to achieve a task, whereas the hero has to think outside of the box and dare not to cross lines others would. A villainous mastermind could also have some good towards their goal. A common trait is to give freedom, for example, to those behind iron bars in jail. So yes, they could well be criminals, but in their mind, their freedom is a good deal. Is this approach rebellious or history in the making? Criminals not getting sufficient punishment or reprimand is pretty much the same thing. One thing for certain, those who lead by deception love to create a false narrative because they understand the public opinion can weigh heavy for their favor, and ultimately, their rescue. It's strange to consider law and order of any country to be anything other than corrupted. All double standards. When the fundamentals of any system have become tampered, who knows who lies ahead? Supposedly, judgment cannot be carried out justly by humans. For example, Hitler having murdered millions, does his one death justify his ordered killing? Hence why people believe a day on where we are raised once again to face ultimate retribution, poetic, beautiful, and yet terrifying. Colors of skins. Now, to come together with a correct understanding of racism and how to abolish this, know that inherently we do not bear the weight of sins of others, especially which comes about from those in the prior and long-lost generations. However, one might argue that some benefit has reached those who are no longer affiliated to past crimes. Yet by reaping the benefits, do they then become accessories? It is always good to take the upper hand in wealth, but it is better to understand that the wealth is a communal effort with no exact ownership. In fact, if your morality is based upon fair treatment and practices, and it should be, parts of your wealth is reserved for those in need automatically. This helps economic and societal value among the masses instead of keeping it in a single family's bloodline. But of course, they're going to be like Rick Ashley. They're never going to give it up. Racism does still exist, though it is underground, such as favoritism for job offers, credit scores, social praise. For certain pigmentations, they are having their say openly, not apologetic nor afraid, not even judged by others. My side request would be, please make a distinction when it's said to stop Asian hate, because I know you mean Oriental, though that term itself is alienating, thus hypocritical. The solution, I believe, is in time, when people can look beyond their appearance and see what is inside. Right now, though it may not be apparent, true racism hides. Being treated as a second or third class citizen, what is then thought, what is also said, and what is being done are all different. The newer generation, credit where it's due, they don't seem to have this problem. They dissociate themselves from it. except from those who have nothing better to do. Poor or rich? Loving one another equally. Now what does that mean? The fact that the timestamp is worded this way really speaks volumes. Who even has insight to grasp or really care? Poor people have a lot more respect in the eyes of the public compared to that of rich people. Regardless of the fact that more eyes are on the rich, most likely on the riches itself, and that is mainly because I believe that wealth is a combined pot, and the only way somebody becomes affluent is by making immoral decisions, in essence, taken from somebody else. They both eat, poop, and sleep, but there shouldn't be extremes in either category, and that is the silver lining of living in an ideal world. Only true leadership addressing every nation can achieve this, because as we know, most people love living by the laws. The only problem is, these laws are contradictory, man-made, and intended to serve the interests of those it was made for, taking advantage of loopholes. People discount the newer generation as stupid. I don't. I believe they are far more intelligent, however misguided. They don't consider race like the predecessors used to. They like to have fun and work hard, but smarter. They know more than they tell, yet once again misguided. Their principles are more aligned with an equality view of the world, instead of equitable. Whatever in the world does he mean? I ask again. Who cares? It's been about delusion whilst they are busy taking over the earth, controlling production, distributing wealth, calling the shots on what skin color, heritage, or sex has worth. Vegetables and meat. Not easy, not cheap, unless it was suspicious to say the least. Lifestyle choices as far as one should be concerned. Yes, animals are cute, and we eat them too. We understand that pain exists. But have you seen a goat ready to accept its fate when knowing it was going to be slaughtered in the name of God? Not for God, because God doesn't eat. Isn't it evident we are here on earth with all that sustains our needs? But it is extra, so don't get me wrong. I believe food is food regardless meat or vegetables. My main concern is who you thanked for it. Thanking the farmers who worked hard gathering, and the only divine being who sent rain from the sky, so on and so forth. True, we can get by with just vegetables, and poor people often live as such, but the demand is greater than ever before, and that is the reason for the sudden concern. In terms of feeling suffering for the animals, stop lying to yourself. It's about volume, not regarding the act itself. For you activists, I pose a question. Would you be happy if less animals were eaten? And then again, people treat animals better than they treat humans, and you have not a clue inside their organism to pretend to feel their pain or see through their eyes. Yet I agree. For everything, there should be an etiquette, and if me eating vegetables in front of you will shut you up, then perhaps I will. That would be tolerance, not acceptance. In honest truth, I don't care. They all taste good with a little salt. Just not tomatoes, but then again, they classed as fruit. Religion, land, and Islam. As said in the first episode, everybody, whether they are aware or not, follow a religion. Could be a shit way of life, but still, not sparkling, a way of life nonetheless. Why is Islam being contended with around every corner? Other beliefs, such as atheistic, which is ironic to say the least. Christianity, yet that word did not exist until 100 years after their time. And Judaism, which is a form of martial arts, they all contest. Apart from the last one, they are happy being rich in their own little bubble. They have no concern for truth or the movement, because it would cause growth in their participants, which would dilute their money pot. Makes sense, don't it? Having at least one source which is preserved in its audible recitation, to use as a foundation and cross-examine, though it is beyond that if we could ever know. Always being attacked physically with bombs being dropped on the majority of Muslim populated countries. If not that, then verbally abused with all manner of nonsense, likes of which contain no understanding. As said in episode, there are more answers than there are questions. What could a sperm drop ever really come to know? And if it weren't either of those two ways, a grudge is held inside the heart of whoever does not like the concept of God, restraint, charity, discipline, or doing good. And ironically, those that say they don't need religion to do this, they are lying. It is not about a single act, but an ideology for repetitive actions. I will never pretend to look a certain way or do certain actions to have the image of a good believer, let alone shout about it. People gravitate towards false narratives, like all the time. It's scary to see how many people belittle others in the name of something when it is something else. Or those who sell themselves short for meager monetary gain. That is the thing about religion as a whole. It is not based upon the people, but its message, which this one is a simple reminder on basic human rights. So why do communities feel weak? It's a reflection of the participants inside. And one statement to those that point fingers: culture can be a part of a religion, but not of Islam. And when it comes to the enemy who boast to exult in their hypocritical or even evil acts, they are the enemy of good. Just because they have numbers, can they truly justify it to themselves? And they do. They may look together, but indeed their hearts are divided. They only work together to make something for themselves. They are selfish, and that's the bottom line. And regarding the land, said this a number of times in my cartoon music videos: shoot, and most times you miss. Who really owns it? Nobody. To claim something of your own. They were once a baby that could not defend themselves, brought into the world naked. Suddenly you own this, you own that. Animals like horses, when did they ever consent? Cows be like, yummy, please eat me, they said. not. At the very least, you should be grateful. Not in the sense of, wow, thanks to my effort, I did such a good job walking upon this, being ready for me to chew. No, being grateful is how you act or respond to being given. And what are we but alive because of the ability to breathe? The consumer industry. Told you before, I don't need facts or figures for what is inherently apparent. Speaking of shopping, shops come and go. They are cheap, so as long as it's not suspicious, people buy, prices go up, competition arises, nobody buys from the first place, that closed down, back at square one. The cycle continues. How much crap do we buy? How much crap do they sell? All of it comes from an organic, natural origin, meaning it was never theirs, it is of the earth, including the chemicals found on the periodic table. So, is something inherently useful, or do people find a use for it? Most annoying part of consumerism has to be the .99. Like, are you trying to piss me off? 1 for 1 should be the only form of exchange. But like some people price carrots more expensive than cucumbers, let me remind you at this juncture, without rain we are dead. Go eat some of that sand of time. You may argue that some is more arduous to cultivate than others, but the bottom line and principle is it was free. What did people do if not work for what their bellies needed? Now access is controlled, regulated, and we'll call it what it is, monopolized. Tying back to the previous topic, who is anyone to say where I can put my sticks and stones and build a house? Except the council will come with a bulldozer. This should be tyrannical if you do not abide by the systematic laws already in place. And what happens when one person with a ton of stolen funds comes into the scene? He can build whatever type of mansion he likes for all his little piggies to live in. And believe me, there are different types of these, including the ones that get away with murder. Supply the demand, but create the demand. For example, a brand new plush doll. Have a popular shill inside to do some promo. Then make an announcement. Don't sell any, but say they are sold out. People losing their minds, crazed because they're crazy. Food, water, and shelter. They are the only things required for our existence, nothing else. Our curiosity is what drives sales through the roof. But that might be a discussion for another day. Inventions of Innovation. This ties into consumerism. To get a job done more efficiently, somebody made an abacus, then a calculator, to now having a leap in technology, computers. Forget about AI. That shit be a lazy computer salad code generator. I believe we have reached a plateau concerning the pinnacle of technology, meaning that most of what could have been invented has been, though it does innovate different aspects of our daily lives. Instead of using a pen and paper, we are using a reusable method of text on light-emitting machines. If you think innovation is all good, you can also be very wrong. From self-checkout machines at supermarkets to sorting packaging machines at factories, it is creating a larger unemployment bracket as automation becomes a leading industry's decisions. Side note, what purpose do they need lifelike dolls? To stick their ding-a-ling, sing-a-song into self-gratification. LOL, just funny how attached they get. Planes carry people to new lands as do cars. Transportation is a good addition in my opinion, but if people have no direction in life, where are they gonna go? Chasing otherworldly rewards? Pointless expenditure. So you're in a new country, you can try better food for that insatiable hunger, or get yourself a nice box of a room to live in whilst you make your way towards non-existence. It's not what you do, but how you do it which makes a difference, and with whom that makes the journey better. However, it is ultimately about the destination, and you cannot prove me otherwise. And lastly, false power of media. Media has no power inherently, only what the public places. For a bold example, back in the day you knew of people who were bold, and now it is like an epidemic. This is due to people becoming overwhelmed with everybody's information. It can make the simplest of problem which have no bearing on one's individual character enlarged to a psychological trauma. It is harmful to have a society solely built on the sharing of information without a trustworthy source to validate claims. Social media especially encourages emotions over accuracy, as do propaganda news outlets. The purpose of my talking show is to be concise with what's said on the topic, saying the most with the least. At least now the majority have opened their eyes to consider other points of view. Mostly false views, just saying. But whether they are ready to accept reality for the shit show that it is, that is a different question altogether. True power in character is not one who can lift a rock, but the one who doesn't act on their anger when it is so easy to do so. So when they say power is in media, in terms of conveying dialogue, it's all the same. The only thing that matters is whether or not people would like to listen. And there you have it. Thank you very much for listening, and be sure to tune in for another episode of Zenny Sign Up.